The next section of the DAT is the Perceptual Ability test, the PAT. You get 90 questions in 60 minutes. And for this, when I took my first practice test for PAT, I did terrible. Not because I'm an idiot, but because most of the time you'll never have even seen questions like angle ranking, cube counting, hole punching, like top front end. Who does that in their free time, right? So my biggest piece of advice is start early. I kind of like casually started studying for the DAT, or just becoming familiar with some of the concepts in November, and my test was in May. And so for November, December, I really just did like 15 questions at PAT a day, like even just like 1 or 2 questions from each section. That way I could kind of start training my brain to get used to seeing a keyhole or top front end question, because I was really having a hard time with those 2 sections in particular, or subsections in particular. As for angle ranking, you just need to do every single day. From January to May, I did 10 questions every night before bed of angle ranking, and I felt like that was my saving grace, because man, some of those angles are tough to see, and if you can just if you're seeing them every day, you're going to get so good at just having a natural like gut instinct of what the answer is going to be, or which one's bigger than the other. So definitely start early on those. As far as cube counting, hole punching, and pattern folding, I feel like those are the easiest to get 100% on. Obviously, the first time you take a practice test, you're probably not going to get 100%, and that's okay. Like, please don't get discouraged, because I was doing not very well my first time either. But practicing those every day, you're going to get amazed how easily and how quickly you become very competent in recognizing those questions and seeing how to fold them or whatnot. So I feel like try your best to max out the number of correct answers on those 3 sections. The next section that I would say you can max out on quite easily with practice is top front end. For most people, it's just they need to see hundreds of top front end questions over the course of a few months to really get comfortable with it. That was the case for me. When I first started studying, I was getting like 2 out of 15 correct on top front end. Once my brain became in tune with that style of question, I could almost get 100% every time on those in practice tests. So trying your best to max out those sections so that the harder sections, at least for me, were angle ranking and keyhole. You can give yourself some wiggle room, so to speak. I'm missing some of those, but on my practice tests, I was averaging, I think, around 20 in my first few practice tests, and then I got up to about 24, 25, and I kind of let off the gas with my PAT once I hit that score, because I know it doesn't factor into the academic average or total science. So I sort of let off the gas on PAT, and it wasn't until a week before my test that I really started focusing on doing 15 questions for each section a day, and I ended up getting a 25 on the real thing. I was very happy with a 25. On the test, the angles were like, I would say, harder than they were on practice tests, so I wasn't confident when I moved on from the PAT that I did very well. Cube counting, pattern folding, hole punch, I felt good in, but the keyhole and angle ranking, man, they can just, they can wreck you, so be aware of that. Also, I felt like boot camp was more representative than booster for all of the PAT. If you're like me and you use the generators a lot to study the PAT generators from booster, you're going to be surprised when you go into the real test and suddenly you're looking at cube counting questions from different angles. And I'm not talking about floating cubes. I'm talking about literally your point of view is different. Same thing for angle ranking. A lot of the times in practice tests, it'll be like one short side, one long side, like this, or they'll all be different angles. I felt like the real test had a wider variety of things and a wider variety of viewpoints and angles you'll experience in practice tests. So just be aware of that. I feel like boosters would be or boot camp would be the best way to practice and prepare yourself for that. Also, the pattern folding was nothing. I didn't have a single generator like pattern. I didn't have a key. I didn't have a dice. I didn't have or the U shape. I didn't have any recognizable shapes. It was all completely unique shades too. So just be aware of that. I would practice like the tiered questions within booster, or the practice test questions within the bootcamp tests to get better practice for PAT. Other than that, my biggest suggestion would just be stay on top of PAT. Don't let it fall to the wayside because you know it doesn't count towards academic average. Do your best to train your brain to start thinking in PAT terms and treat it like a game. And it's kind of fun once you start doing that. I started to enjoy my PAT studies near the end. So don't get discouraged and keep at it and you'll do fine.